Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to call the meeting to order for the Oxnard City Council Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting for July 9th, 2024, times 8:30. Madam Clerk, do you have a statement or something you'd like to read for the public?
Yes, Chair Perello. Thank you. The public may view the meeting from home on Spectrum Channel 10, Frontier Channel 35, or at youtube.com/Oxnard News. Video recordings of the meeting are typically available online following the meeting at the city's website. The public may participate in the meeting in the following ways. 1. Attend the meeting in person at 305 West 3rd Street and submit a speaker card to the city clerk. Or 2, submit a request to speak remotely by no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting by using the form available at www.oxnard.org/citymeetings. And 3, submit an email to cityclerk@oxnard.org or contact the city clerk's office at 805-385-7803 no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. To provide public comment during the meeting, please dial 888-475-4499 and enter the meeting ID and passcode located on the agenda. Public comments will be taken following the announcement of the item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. First item on the agenda is, excuse me, the roll call and posting of the agenda and the flag salute. Madam Clerk, the posting of the agenda is correct?
Can we do the roll call right now?
Okay.
Chair Perello?
Yes.
Member Zaragoza?
Here.
Member Valenzuela?
Here.
We have a quorum, and the agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall Bulletin Board on July 2nd, 2024.
And Councilmember Arthur Valenzuela will lead the flag salute.
Please stand, right hand over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda are public comments for items not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments not on the agenda?
I think you have one right now.
Okay. Apparently we do. The mayor has handed me the list. Mr. Grant Kennedy, is he available?
Chair Perello, Grant is currently not available virtually or in person.
Okay. At the end of the meeting, we'll take a shot at Mr. Kennedy again. If he's listening or can hear, let him know. Are there any other comments?
No, we don't have any additional speakers or any more speakers.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda under consent, City Clerk's Department, the approval of the minutes. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee approve the minutes for the June 25th, 2024 regular meeting as presented. Do we have any public comments on this, Madam Clerk?
Chair Perello, no, we don't.
Okay. Do we have any recommendations or questions, concerns, or additions on the minutes, my committee members?
Move the recommended action.
And Mr. Chair, I was absent, on this committee, but my understanding from the city attorney that I can vote on this item, correct?
I'll second the motion, but the mayor has asked, because he was absent, will he be allowed to vote?
Have you reviewed them?
Yes,
Yeah, you can go ahead and vote on them.
okay
That's
then.
fine.
Go ahead and please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Thank you, City Attorney. The next item on the agenda, D1, reports. Public Works Department, sewer main transfer of ownership. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute an agreement and any associated documents transferring the ownership of an out-of-service sewer main from the City of Oxnard to the City of Port Hueneme. There is a presentation on Measure M. The voters approved Measure M, but therefore there's no presentation on this item. But we do have Mr. Chief Engineer, I believe, City Engineer Tim Beeman here to address the questions. There was a video presentation, and I hope the public had a chance to see it. It was a good video. Any questions?
You know,
Excuse me. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on this?
Chair Perrello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you, and I apologize.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's okay. My understanding that this sewer main always belonged to the city of Hueneme. And according to your report, you know, that apparently there was a sinkhole that happened and we went and fixed it, or somebody fixed it and so forth. And my understanding now that that line really belonged to the city of Hueneme. And I think by transferring, I think there's something like a $20,559 and some cents transfer cost for the whole item. Can you give us a little bit more information on that?
Yes, of course. Good evening, committee chair, committee. My name is Tim Beeman. I'm the interim assistant public works director overseeing water and wastewater. And so there was a series of events that led into this. And so we do have parallel pipelines. One is owned by us, which is in the topic tonight, and then an adjacent one that is actually owned by the city of Port Hueneme. Mm-hmm. And what they experienced is when they did have an issue with their pipeline, they uncovered it and they realized that the overall condition of their pipeline was quite poor, and so they needed to take additional measures. And as part of that, they were doing an investigation of what else is in the street, and that's when they came across that we had an abandoned pipeline we are discussing tonight.
So the line really belongs to the Hueneme then?
No, the pipeline, the 24-inch pipeline that's in discussion is actually currently owned by the city of Oxnard, and this is a transfer of ownership from the city of Oxnard to the city of Port Hueneme.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. Thank you. That's it.
And I just want to say I think this is a good neighbor policy and supportive of it.
Thank you very much. A few questions. Can you describe the pipeline as far as exactly what we're talking about, so the public gets a chance to hear what this pipeline is, the length, the diameter, possibly the depth of the pipeline, where it's located?
Definitely.
Please.
So the pipeline was installed in the mid-'70s, and it was a transmission line that ran through the city of Port Hueneme, but was owned by the city of Oxnard, and it transferred the wastewater from the city of Port Hueneme, part of the naval base, and then actually to our wastewater treatment plant. The pipeline is 24 inches in diameter, and because it's a gravity main, it does dive in depth. So it goes from, I think it's about 3.5 feet to roughly 10 feet at its lowest point. It did terminate at a lift station that about 2 years ago we demolished, and we actually capped the line at that spot. From what I can see in historical documents, that there was some intent to use the line as a slip line, possibly for a recycled line, but we ended up building our recycled line up J Street and then cutting over to Ventura, keeping it all within the Oxnard city limits. So this line was abandoned and capped at both ends. It runs from about Hueneme, from Channel Islands Boulevard, and it runs down Ventura and then goes east towards the wastewater treatment plant, and it terminates just right before J Street.
And again, for the public, the actual details are in the staff report. I hope the public takes an opportunity to look at it. The length is 2,970 feet, one section, and 900 feet in a second section, all 24-inch pipeline. My understanding from the report, the city of Oxnard will, and if you can get into this, Mr. Beeman, there will be an exchange for the value of the pipeline based on the life expectancy and the asset value. But before we get to that point, there was an agreement with the city of Oxnard and Port Hueneme, an agreement to inspect it because it's being sold as is. But the Port Hueneme did have an opportunity to inspect the pipeline, and they want to go forward. They must have found that they liked the pipeline.
Yes, so we did enter in an agreement through this process. They did contact us. We entered into an agreement, and they were able to do an inspection of the pipeline. So yes, it is a little over 3,000 linear feet. And their intent for it, I'm assuming that they're looking to replace their force main and slip line, use this line as a slip line.
And it will be their pipeline, so
Yes.
whatever they do with it, it's up to them.
Yes, sorry. So what we do, we actually maintain an entire list of our assets. And so what we were able to do is the drawings that were included in the staff report, we can trace it back to that year and that asset number and then associate it with that list of the assets. And as our assets age, they do depreciate over time. So we're talking about a 50-odd-year-old pipeline. And so the depreciated asset value is the $20,259, and I forget the cents.
Just to clarify, that's the undepreciated value. So that's the value that's still left in that asset that hasn't been depreciated left. So that, to make our ratepayers whole, we are asking or requiring the city of Port Hueneme to pay that amount because that's not yet depreciated.
Okay, thank you. One other question for the city attorney. Does the city attorney's office feel comfortable with this agreement? I see that you have, pretty ironclad, but the understanding is they're buying it as is. They've had an opportunity to inspect it. If they accept it and they change their mind later on, there is no backing out of the deal?
Yeah, that's correct. The city attorney's office is comfortable with the agreement. We drafted it in part with Port Hueneme's council, and they know that they are taking it as is, and they've already done an inspection of the line, and it will work for their purposes.
And I will just share this with my fellow members, having been involved in attending auctions for equipment. Oftentimes it's as is, where is, and when somebody goes to load it on a trailer or something, large components can fall off, and it's like, you bought it, where is as is. This one, to the credit of the city of Oxnard, we allowed them to inspect it, and they've inspected it, I believe it says by running a camera in the pipeline, and unless anyone else has any questions,
Motion to approve?
Second?
okay. And Madam Clerk, there's still no comments on this?
That's correct.
Okay. I think this is I support this, and it's very wise on the city of Oxnard to potentially get rid of a potential liability and potentially help our next door neighbors, and it builds a relationship, and it's all good all the way around. Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda, D2, is, again, Public Works and Transportation Committee, the subject, public project number, public project agreement 325-00024 with Oilfield Electric Company for on-call electrical maintenance and minor repair services, specifications number PW24-100. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Oilfield Electric Company for a total amount not to exceed $1,860,000 for a 3-year term for on-call electrical maintenance and minor repair services. Specifications number PW24-100. Again, the voters approved Measure M. There is a video presentation, but there will not be a presentation at this body. It's a good video presentation, excellent staff report, interesting. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on this item?
Chair Perrello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person.
Thank you very much. And again, we have Mr. Tim Beeman. The board, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellent report, as mentioned by our chairman. The Oilfield and Electric Company is an on-call service for, as was mentioned by the chair, that for maintenance and minor repairs. Very, very important, my understanding. They're on call and is needed 24/7, correct? And I think that there was 2 bidders, and I think Oilfield was the most qualified bidder, correct?
Yes, so for on-call services, we actually go by low bid, but we do have.
A low bid would be the.
Low bid, and we do have multiple contracts with Oilfield Electric, not just previous on-calls, but we also have actual projects that we're doing with them, capital improvement projects that they've bid on. So we have a lot of history working with them.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
In the staff report on page 50, it addresses that the schedule of maintenance and work, and then there's also non-scheduled urgent repair. And it has one part of it that I'd like to get a clarification, just a yes or a no or a slight explanation. Non-scheduled urgent repair. The contractor, and states, bullet point 1, the contractor must verbally respond within 30 minutes by telephone notification by the city. Point 2, contractor must be on site within 1 hour of the notification to begin work immediately. My question, and only this specific part about being on site, what if heavy equipment is required? Does the heavy equipment have to be there within the 1 hour?
So for these sorts of contracts, yes. And with oil field and some of our other on-call contracts, they're prepared for this. And so they do load up, for the most part, they load up their equipment every week, or every day. A lot of them already sit on trailers. Now for electrical, it's slightly different unless we're moving something large like a transformer or something. It's usually hand tools, which they would have on their truck.
And so my assumption is within the hour, they must be pretty locally cited, this company.
Yes, that's correct. And for, work, I believe that there are some pictures in the presentation that were from the wastewater treatment plant that shows work being done. And so with those sorts of facilities that we own, generally we have people there 24/7. And we also have people on call so with the wastewater plant, people are there 24/7. And we do have people on call for the water facilities where they have to respond in the same amount of time.
Okay, thank you. And just as far as oil field and electric, I've been around a long time and I've seen them in various parts of the county. And I have seen them at the sewer plant with their stuff. Madam Clerk, are there still no public comment?
That's correct, Chair Perrello.
Okay, I will move this recommended action.
Second?
Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, D3, subject, agreement number 325-00028 with Corolla Engineering Incorporated for on-call consulting services for water and recycle treatment process support. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Corolla Engineering Incorporated for a total amount not to exceed $200,000 for an initial one-year term from July 31st, 2024 to July 30th, 2025, with the option to extend for 2 consecutive one-year extensions that shall not exceed the total number of 3 years for a final term, ending July 30th, 2027, for on-call consulting services for water and recycled water treatment process support. Again, there is a presentation, a Measure M. Because of Measure M, there's not going to be a presentation at this body. There is a video presentation, well done. The staff report's very detailed, lists the contracts, the whole enchilada. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments from the public?
Chair Perrello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. Do my fellow committee members have any questions?
No, Tim, again, excellent report, and presentation, and the consulting services are extremely important, especially for the recycled water part of the whole public works process. And is that part of the water department or part of the treatment?
Part of the water department.
Part of the water department. I think it's a good contract, personally. Thank you, sir.
I know that Corolla has been involved with the city for a long time, specifically that I know of from the sewer plant. I know in the discussion of the item, there is a section, taking it right out of the page 78, top of the page, Corolla has existing agreements with Public Works Engineering Division that exceed the aggregate spending limit of $200,000 identified in the city's procurement policy, and city council approval is required for a new agreement. Under this new agreement, it's addressing the financial impact. And City Attorney, can you address the financial impact on this one? Because the actual item does not give us a specific, it's going to be for so much money or up to not passing.
The agreement itself is up for $200,000.
So that's the agreement itself?
For this agreement specifically, but because we have other agreements with Corolla, they do work at the water plant, for the water division, within the recycled water plant, and then also with wastewater, and the aggregate amount is over the threshold that requires us to come to.
Okay, I guess I should have asked before, but Public Works Director Wolf.
Yeah, so just a little clarification. So if we did not have agreements with this company, city manager actually could sign this agreement because it's under $200,000. It's under his threshold authority. So because we have existing agreements with this same contractor or same firm, the aggregate exceeds his authority, so that's why it's actually going to committee and council. So this agreement is for 200,000, but aggregate, all the agreements that we have in place are over 200,000, which is why we're going through this process rather than allowing the city manager to sign it underneath his threshold.
So in these agreements that we already have existing and this new one coming in, there's not going to be changes in the agreement. The guy's a little bit more expensive for this piece of equipment or that. And the only reason I ask, I'll read the financial impact. And again, Mr. Beaman and staff, I apologize, I should have asked higher. It says financial impact. The total amount of agreement for 325-00028 with Corolla Engineering shall not exceed $200,000 over the term of 3 years. The estimated spending of fiscal year 2024-25 is $67,000 and is included in the fiscal year 24-25 adopted budget from the Water Operating Fund, and they give the number of the fund, 6013600532000. Subsequent year allocations will be requested during annual budget process. So that information covers what.
Correct. So the first part of your question is that the scope of work that's associated with this contract is different and separate from the other contracts we have with the same company. But this is a separate scope of work, separate agreement, allows us to spend up to $200,000 over those 3-year period. And what we're saying in the fiscal impact is we're not going to spend more than $200,000, but the first year we anticipate spending this $67,000 as our anticipated expenditure.
And the only question I had was, I'm aware of a bricklayer that got a job, and then they kept asking him to, this is not the example here, but I'm aware of this. Bricklayer got a job, they asked him to do certain patio work, and as the work went on, they liked his work. And things kept going, and he was, as time went on, he's complaining to himself that he should have raised the price. So the next time they asked for an extension, he asked, okay, you can extend my contract, but it's for this much money above and beyond the original. That's not the case here.
So let me dissect that a little bit. That's not the case here, but if we do have some agreements that allow for a CPI increase in future fiscal years. So that is allowed if it's part of the solicitation process.
Consumer Price Index, that's what you're, okay, that's understandable. Thank you. Any recommendations on this?
No speakers, right?
And I beg your pardon, Madam Clerk, are there any speakers that have called in?
Chair Perrella, we have no speakers for this item.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. Thank the staff for.
Motion passes 3-0.
The next item, D4, Mr. Howlett is at the microphone. D4, Second Amendment to Agreement 9648-22-CM with Pacific Coast Elevator Corporation doing business as Amtrak Elevator Services for elevator inspections, maintenance, and repairs. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute a second amendment to the agreement with Pacific Coast Elevator Corporation doing business as Amtech Elevator Services to increase the current not to exceed amount from $200,000 to $500,000 and extend the term to August 31st, 2025 for elevator inspections, maintenance, and repairs. Again, there's a presentation, video, but due to Measure M, there will not be a presentation here. We have Mr. Howlett to answer questions and any other staff associated. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers on this item?
Chair Perrella, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
I'd like to say I appreciate, it's very detailed, covers all the whole shooting match about all the details in this contract. The video was very good. My board members, committee members, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah. Steve, I didn't realize we had that many elevators. What, 23 elevators in 14 buildings? I'm always just used to one or two elevators here and there, but and I think the important thing that I think the chair mentioned was inspection services and repairs. So we're not waiting for the elevators to break down, we're inspecting them, servicing to make sure they don't break down. Correct?
Correct. Chair Perello and Mayor Zaragoza and Committee Member Valenzuela. For state compliance and also following manufacturer's recommendations, we have our annual inspections as well as our quarterly. The state does have licensing, so when you go into the elevators, you'll see that the license inspection is on there. During COVID, the state did not have any inspectors on staff, and they are just now getting the inspectors back on board. So we're working with the state inspectors to make sure that all of our elevators are in compliance.
I remember when I was with the county during COVID, they only allowed X amount of people in the elevator, and that was a policy within the administration. And I can't remember how many, if the elevator required or maybe allowed 10 people, I think they only had something like 3 or 4 people actually use the elevator at the same time, just during COVID, which I think was but now, like you said, it's different now, you know, and I think the important thing is that we service it, repair it, and make sure that it's operable, you know, for not only for our employees, but also for the public. So I think it's a good presentation, by the way.
No additional comments, just that it's necessary.
Okay, thank you. I can tell you, when I go to other buildings, and I also look at ours, I look at the sheet that's inside the elevator, and sometimes there will be a date, and the date will be in the past. When these inspections happen, I just request the sheets be updated, so that, because I have been taken to task when I've said, hey, it's not, well, we have the information on the desk or something like that. And I'm not the only person. This happened recently at the county building, and somebody got very startled that somebody was even asking. And I'm going, you're in the elevator going up and down, you got nothing to do but look at the sheet. So that's the only request I have. I appreciate this and I support this totally. I could ask what I think is an idiotic question. Your staff report covered it. The city of Oxnard does not have a person on staff that does elevator work.
Correct, Chair Perello. This is a very specialized field, and we do not have staff that are trained in this. And in this case, because it is a safety-related item in a very specialized field, this is something that we prefer to have a third-party contractor be responsible for this, so they can work not only with staff, but also it ties in with our alarm system contractor and the state inspectors. So if I could reiterate what I said previously about what you were saying about going into the elevators and not seeing them up to date, we continue to do the maintenance and servicing of the elevators. What's missing was the annual inspections by the state inspectors. Now those state inspectors are back on board and working with the city and making sure that the elevators are in compliance. So that's, as we work with those state inspectors, we will be updating that information.
Thank you very much. That answers all my questions.
Motion to approve?
Okay.
Well, no speakers, right?
Second.
And Madam Clerk, there's no speakers have called in?
That's correct, Chair Perello.
My fellow committee members, it gets lonely. Nobody's calling
Motion
in.
to approve.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, the second to the
Thank you,
last
Steve.
item on the agenda is items for future agenda.
None on my part, no.
Here. Okay, and we'll do one last shot for the item on public comment. Did Mr. Grant Kennedy call in?
No, he didn't.
Then with that, ladies and gentlemen, good night. This meeting is adjourned.